Left me grieving and alone, now he wants me back because I'm rich. I'm 27, and right now I'm in the middle of a rough separation from my almost ex-husband Jeff, who cheated on me a few months back. We were married for 2 years, together for 3 before that, and had started trying for a baby just 8 months into the marriage because we'd already been living together 4 years by then and figured it was time. But after months of trying and nothing happening, we got tested and found out both of us had fertility problems. That news hit me like a truck. I shut down completely. I'd wanted to be a mom so bad. Jeff didn't take it well either, but instead of being there for me, he pulled away. We barely spoke for a couple of months. I was already in a bad place emotionally, and his distance made it worse. I planned to reach out to him, try to fix things, but before I could, he sat me down and told me he'd been sleeping with an old friend from high school, someone he met up with just days after we got our test results. Said it started with a lunch while she was in town for work, and from there it turned into a full-on affair. His excuse for hiding it? He said I seemed too upset and he didn't want to pile more on me, which honestly just made me feel worse. I had 100 things I wanted to yell at him, but instead, I just collapsed on the couch and cried harder than I ever have. He didn't comfort me, didn't say anything, just sat there like a rock while I broke down. Once I stopped sobbing for a bit, he told me he was leaving for his parents' house to clear his head. I begged him to stay, even after everything, but it was pointless. He'd already packed up and left. I sat there crying until midnight. That was the lowest day of my life. I ignored calls, texts, everything. Friends and relatives came to check on me, but I wouldn't open the door. I just yelled for them to leave so they knew I was alive. Looking back, I really appreciate that they tried. If they hadn't, I don't know where I'd be now. For almost 2 weeks, I was barely eating, just watching TV and passing out. Then one day my cousin showed up. I told him to leave, but he wouldn't. Said he had to talk to me in person. I didn't take him seriously at first, got into it with him, and then he just told me straight, my dad died that morning from a heart attack. Since I wasn't answering my phone, no one could tell me until then. I was already wrecked from Jeff's betrayal, and now this, it destroyed me. After he left, I cried so loud the neighbors came knocking. That night, I booked a flight for the funeral. I barely functioned at the airport, just moved through it with help from strangers, but I made it home. At the funeral, I was blank, hardly cried, but I planned to stay with my mom for a couple weeks so she wouldn't be alone. She was devastated too, never left my side, but we didn't talk much with all the guests coming and going. My dad was a respected attorney in town, loved by many. Some people even flew in from other countries to say goodbye. It was overwhelming. And then 3 days after his funeral, my mom passed too. Doctors said it was natural causes in her sleep, peaceful, but I knew she died of heartbreak. I believed that with everything in me. We had to plan a second funeral almost immediately. It was smaller, but it hit me even harder, maybe because she died while I was sleeping in the next room. After that, I went numb. Flew back to my place, met with my dad's secretary to handle some legal stuff, and then just went back to my empty routine. I'd eat a little, watch something, sleep. That's it. I lost all control. After a week, I lost my job. I hadn't contacted anyone from work, hadn't shown up, so they fired me, and honestly, I couldn't blame them. Hardly anyone checked on me this time, probably assumed I was still at my parents' house, and that suited me fine. I didn't want company. So that's how I spent the next few months. No job, no outings, no calls. Just silence. Rent and bills got paid, but that was it. I was just surviving. Then one day, my head felt heavy, so I decided to brush my hair. Looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself, hair a mess, face hollow, clothes filthy. Tried brushing, and the comb snapped in half. That dumb little moment woke me up. I stood there and broke down again, but this time it felt different. Like I needed to fall apart to finally start fixing something. That same day, I got my hair fixed, got a full spa treatment. I still had savings from when Jeff and I were trying to get pregnant, good job back then, decent money, not many expenses now that it's just me. Then I went shopping, bought a couple new outfits, came home, saw the state of the apartment and hired cleaners. I wasn't embarrassed. After everything I'd been through, infertility, betrayal, both parents dying, job gone, I was still standing. Once the place was clean and I felt halfway human, I started searching for a therapist because I knew deep down that I wasn't just sad, I was clinically depressed. That shopping trip gave me a little lift, but it wasn't enough. I needed real help. I also started looking for work again, reached out to my old boss, explained everything. To my surprise, she offered me my job back. Said her son was big on mental health advocacy and would have wanted her to help someone trying to get back on their feet. She even offered to connect me with therapists he worked with. I took her up on both, and I'm grateful she gave me that chance. I got my job back. I found a therapist. And for the first time in months, I finally felt like I was getting somewhere. I have been going to therapy once a week for nearly a month now, and I can honestly say I've been starting to feel more like myself again. But the one thing I had not done yet was file the divorce papers, because part of me still had this stupid hope that maybe Jeff would come back and maybe we could make things work somehow. And also, to be completely honest, it had not really crossed my mind since I had been so buried under everything that had happened, so I just kind of sat in it and waited. Like a fool, and then 4 days ago, I got a call from him, and I normally do not pick up calls from anybody these days, but when I saw his name, I got excited like an idiot and answered it thinking this was going to be it, like maybe this was our turning point or something, especially now that I was finally feeling a little better and hoping for something good to come around. And when he invited me to dinner at a place we both used to love, I was all in, thinking it was a sign that we were going to start over, so I dressed up, did my hair, and showed up ready to make peace, even hugged him when I saw him, and he smiled like he was happy to see me, but right from the start, he did not ask me anything about how I was doing or what I had been through. He just started rambling about all the traveling he had done since leaving, how he had been visiting all these great places and meeting new people, and then casually mentioned that the woman he cheated on me with was the one who suggested he go on this journey for some self-reflection, and I noticed he talked about it all in the past tense, so I asked him straight up if they were still seeing each other, and he laughed and said no, because apparently she was too busy to be in a relationship and he wasn't ready for one either. And I remember feeling kind of relieved, like maybe she was out of the picture, but I was so caught up in wanting to believe he came back for me that I completely ignored how weird all of that sounded. And I just kept thinking maybe this was our new beginning, but I should have seen it coming when the night kept going and he still did not ask me anything about my life or even apologize for leaving. Instead, we made small talk, ordered dessert, and then I decided to ask him directly how he handled the breakup, and he straight up told me it had been easier on him than it probably was on me, and then touched my hand and said he knew about my parents' passing because a couple of my friends saw it on my mom's Facebook page and told him, and that is when my brain basically froze, because until that moment, I thought he just didn't know. But it turns out he had known the entire time and still never even bothered to check on me or call or come see if I was even breathing, and that stung more than anything. And he kept going like it was no big deal and told me he figured he would reach out once he got back from traveling, like that was some kind of valid excuse. And while I sat there trying to wrap my head around that, he finally got to the real reason he asked me to dinner and said he wanted to talk about the divorce and what we planned to keep, and that hit me like a freight train because I was still thinking this was a dinner to fix things, and here he was acting like we were just old friends wrapping up some legal agreement. And I remember just sitting there stunned because I had gotten all dressed up thinking this was a reunion when it was actually a farewell, and the longer I sat there the more embarrassed and furious I got because he had the nerve to sit there after months of silence, after ignoring the fact that my entire world collapsed, and then act like we were just casually catching up, and then he actually had the gall to bring up the inheritance and asked how much we were going to get from my parents, and I just laughed, like I could not even stop myself from laughing because it was just that ridiculous, and I told him point blank that he was not getting anything but a divorce and that I would be inheriting close to $7 million, not a dime for him, and the look on his face when I said that was worth every second of this disaster dinner, and I explained that my dad had a solid fortune from his law firm, and my mom, who never worked, had inherited a ton from her family too, and their assets were being sold off soon, and I already had about $2 million lined up as soon as the paperwork cleared, and I was not moving back home, so I had already told their lawyer to liquidate everything, and all of it was mine alone because in our state, inheritance is not considered joint property, and because Jeff admitted to cheating, he was not entitled to alimony either. So I looked him right in the face and told him that walking out on me was probably the best thing he had ever done for me, because if he had stuck around, he would still be in my life while I was building mine back up, and now he gets to watch from the outside while I rebuild, richer and stronger, and I left him sitting there with his fake stories about self-discovery and no clue what hit him, got in my car, and drove straight back home without looking back once. Jeff never reached out again, but his parents sure did, and they were furious, said I was a disgrace for not giving him a child, like that was even just my issue, said that my infertility pushed him to cheat, and now I was some sort of monster for not sharing part of my inheritance with a man who apparently supported me through everything, and I just hung up on them right there, no arguing, no explaining. because I was not about to waste breath justifying myself to people that twisted, but it did not stop there, because after that dinner, his friends and family started blowing up my phone, my messages, even my social media, calling me heartless and cruel for what I said to him, and I will admit it started making me wonder if maybe rubbing the money in his face was a bit much. Maybe I should have just walked out without a word and let him figure it all out himself. But then again, he cheated on me, abandoned me at my lowest, and ignored the death of both my parents like it was a side note, so maybe I was not the one who needed to feel guilty in all this. Anyway, I filed for divorce. That was 3 weeks ago now, and things got real nasty real quick. His family and friends took their little guilt trip public and started bashing me all over the internet, calling me a bitter ex out for revenge, saying I ruined his mental health on purpose, trying to get back at him for cheating, like I had this evil plan all along, and of course they justified his affair by saying I was distant and cold after we got those test results, that he was lonely and his friend just happened to be around, so obviously that makes it all okay in their eyes, but they completely forget he had fertility issues too, and I never went out looking for someone else. I never blamed him for any of it, I just tried to cope, but I guess that part doesn't fit their version of the story, and now it's even reached some people I work with, which is where I drew the line, so I sent out a legal warning, told his folks and their little crew that if they didn't stop harassing me, I'd sue them for defamation, plain and simple, because I wasn't about to let them ruin my reputation just because their son is a liar. Then things got even worse. Jeff decided to fight the divorce, said he changed his mind and wanted to fix the marriage, and I'm sure that had absolutely nothing to do with the $7 million I'm set to inherit, and everything to do with true love, and that's why, suddenly, his family backed off online too, definitely not because I threatened to take them to court, right? I called him as soon as I found out he was contesting it, asked him what the hell he thought he was doing, and all he said was that I must still love him if I was this mad, said I wouldn't have called if I didn't care. Told me I was just lashing out to get revenge but we were going to be fine, then hung up like he had the final word or something, and I was standing there shaking with anger because I have never wanted to slap someone that bad in my life, but I took a breath and told myself I'm not going to jail for that guy, and what really kills me is that I ever thought about taking him back, that I let myself believe he might have changed when really he's just a greedy little leech trying to crawl back into my life with a payout. We ended up in mediation, not by my choice, but because the system makes you go through it sometimes before court, and I knew from the start it was pointless. I didn't want him back, I wasn't negotiating anything, but I went because I wanted this over and knew it would head to court anyway, and it did, and thank God, because now it's official, I'm getting divorced whether he likes it or not, the probate is finally over, the assets are sold, the money's coming in, I've already recovered every cent I spent on my attorney and then some, and honestly, I feel like I can breathe again, so I probably won't be updating anything after this, because I'm not angry anymore, I'm not sad, I'm just done, and that's the best feeling I've had in a long, long time, so thank you if you stuck around and listened, I mean that.